Hey guys, good morning. I hope you're doing well. I need to consolidate my micans, so I'm going to do that with you today. I've got several pots of these, and I just now realized there is another one behind me up on my shelf here, and I've got a bunch over on my shelf on the other side of the plant room. Those were rehabs, but then also I do like to propagate these. They're one of my favorite plants. I love the velvet leaves. I love the bronzy effect when they get a little more sun stressed. They are just gorgeous, and that dark rich green, oh my goodness, with the velvet texture. So anyway, these babies need some help though, so we're going to consolidate these together. And also I decided that I want to have some of my micans start climbing up a pole, so I will stake them up with you also, and then some of them I guess I will leave trailing. I guess I'll just grow them both ways because I like the look of them trailing, but they don't necessarily love that. Like, they will get smaller and smaller leaves, and they're just not as happy as if they get to climb, because that's what they really want to do. So the first thing I'm going to do is start by consolidating, or at least unpotting, the two biggest micans that I have. These are in 6-inch pots, and I've got my little 4-inchers up here too in case I want to fluff up the pot, but I'm going to see what we're working with the roots there for now. Okay, so it's in a really super light mix. This is like a peat and perlite mix. And this is still in its original nursery pot, so I have not repotted these. So that's the root ball. I'm not going to shake out any more soil because I don't want to disturb the roots any more than I have to. And it is in a good soil mix. It's got a lot of perlite. Yeah, these guys are totally ready to climb. I mean, they look really good if they're hanging up though, don't they? Like trailing down, they're so gorgeous. But that's why I gotta have it both ways. I know they want to climb, so I feel bad. I feel like I'm being mean to them if I don't let them climb up something. And I always like to show you guys the texture of the soil I'm using so you can see it kind of up close, because you know, pretty much all over the world we all have access to different types of ingredients for our soil mixes and plants. Sometimes people just use a regular potting soil and they do like a 50-50 blend of that mixed with perlite, and that works too. So it just depends on what you have access to, what you enjoy using, kind of like what you find to be the sweet spot for your particular setup and climate. The cocoa peat holds on to moisture, so that's the moisture retaining ingredient. And then the cocoa chips and fiber, those do wick up moisture and they hold on to it like a little sponge, but they also allow a lot of airflow. So you get a lot of oxygen circulating around the roots, which is excellent. And the roots love grabbing onto the cocoa chips. And then for aeration, I've got coarse pumice and perlite. There's also some horticultural charcoal in here. It just takes a little bit, so I just normally throw in a handful of it. And then also sphagnum moss in here. And that's just like recycled sphagnum moss from other projects I've done, or air layering. Sometimes I'll just chop it up and throw it into a mix. I'm gonna hold the pole in there and see if I can just add some soil around it and try to stabilize it before I put the plants in. These plant babies are gonna be so happy getting up on a pole. Okay, I'm just gonna tuck it. I'm gonna tuck one off to one side. Once it reaches the top, even though I'm using a really tall pole, once it reaches the top, then I can do the propagations on it. Well, as if I need any more micans. Well, I mean, can you really have enough micans? I mean, I don't know. I've got probably too much micans, but who's counting really? All right, let's get you in there. So I'm kind of just positioning them where their vines are gonna be, you know, the naked part of the vines are gonna be kind of leaning up against the pole there. Oh, I think this is gonna be awesome. Well, hopefully, I mean, we'll see once we get potted up in here. All right, get you all settled in here. All right, guys, I just had to pop in here. It's editing me from the future, and I just wanted to let you know that that static sound is my microphone touching my shirt. It just goes on during the repot period where I'm moving around a lot, but then it goes back to normal. But I'm so sorry about that. I will try to avoid that in the future and be more careful. All right, back to the video. Okay, so I'm just gathering up all those vines, and there's no easy way to get the vines up there. You can try to organize them as best you can. I'm just gonna attach them right about there. Okay, I'm gonna add a piece of garden Velcro. Okay, I'm actually gonna need one more piece down here. I'm gonna add one more piece of Velcro up here too, right towards the very top, just because I kind of want to train those to go upwards. I mean, once you transition a plant from trailing to climbing, at first, when you first pot it up, because the leaves have been growing in one direction, you know, trailing downwards, they might look a little bit turned around, you know, but they'll eventually realize what's going on and they'll straighten up and start going in the right direction and they'll look really pretty. But it's just that initial repot, they can look a little bit turned around. All right guys, it's the next day. I've got more micans to repot here. These are the rehabs, and they have cold damage. They were at a big box store and they were left out overnight in the freezing cold here in the desert, and they were soaking wet also. So when I came across these, they were like in the back corner, like in a really weird spot in the garden center outside, which normally like the tropicals are inside, you know, but yeah, these poor babies, they were like not in good shape at all. So I took them in, I gave them a nice cozy spot in the plant room here. They've come back, they're doing really good. So I mean, they've got some old scarring and damage, you know, from the cold, but those are older leaves and they're going to be perfectly fine. So I'm going to get these potted up into a hanging pot this time, or not a hanging pot, no, I'm going to get them into a pot without a pole, and they're going to be trailing this time. Okay, so I'll show you the pot I'm going to be using this time is one of these wash basin pots, and it's one of the large ones. So I think we're going to be able to fit like maybe 4 plants, 3 or 4 plants at least in there, I think. Let's see, who do we want to start with? Because I'll pick out the best ones first to put in here. Okay, so I'll start with a couple, and goodness, so many babies. All right, let's get these sorted out here. Oh wait, oh, that one looks really good too. Oh my gosh, they all have new growth too coming in. Let's get this little baby out and see what's happening with it. It's got some nice white roots along the bottom. I can see them poking through, just barely poking through the bottom of the pot. Okay, hold on. What's going on? Why is it having a hard time getting out? There's no roots holding on to the bottom. Oh, okay. Yeah, that looks really good. Oh, good. I was afraid of awesome roots. Okay, look at that. Sweet little root system there. I'm not going to be taking it out of that soil. That's good soil for it. I mean, it holds on to a lot of moisture. It's like a peat. It's a peat and perlite mix. So I'm using the same mix that we just used. I just had to make up a fresh batch this morning. Those wash basin style pots, since they have that shape to them, the kind of bulbous shape, I do push some of the soil out around the edges before I start putting the plants in there. So when it's got a good looking root system like that, it's clearly happy in the soil, I'm just gonna stick it right in. I'm not gonna like tease the roots up or anything. I'm not gonna try to, you know, remove any of the soil. I'm just gonna plop it right in. And since this one looks pretty good, I'm gonna put it towards the front. Turn it so you guys can see a little better. Actually, both of these look really good. Oh man, you guys, I don't know. Am I gonna be able to fit? I guess I can try to fit 3 in there. I'm gonna try really hard to get 3 in here. At first I was thinking I'd be able to get 4, but I don't think so. Let's see how this, oh, that one's got nice white roots coming through the bottom too. Definitely ready for a repot. Oop. Come on. Okay, that's it. Let go. Oh, wow, that's even better root system there. Beautiful, healthy white roots. Love it. Okay, let's tuck this one right in next to that other one there. Oh my gosh. Okay, it's gonna be tight in here, but I'm gonna try my best to get 3 in here. I really want a big full pot of micans. Okay, I think I'm gonna do this one. Oh my gosh, I feel like such a micans hoarder right now with all these little pots everywhere. Oh man, these all have awesome root systems. So glad, look at that one. We're gonna squeeze this one right in the back here. And then I've gotta fill in the gaps with soil. So let me move this. It'll be so fun to come back and do an update with you guys where I can show you how the trailing micans has done versus the climbing, and just see kind of what they look like and if one grew faster than the other. All right, that's about as full as I can make it. I could only fit the 3 pots in here, and now I just gotta figure out exactly where I wanna have this. I think I might put it on this side of the room, so I will show you guys after I find a place for it, and I'll be right back. All right, so right down here, I don't know if you guys can see it, but right down here on this shelf, I've got more micans to pot up. So these guys, they were starting to get all tangled. I figured I better get these repotted as soon as possible because they start getting out of control in a hurry, and they got roots coming out the bottom here. So I'm gonna try to pot up as many pots as I can of these. I think I have 5 pots left of these. So I'm gonna try to pot, well, as many as I can into this large pot up here. Nice root system on there, looking good. I've got a coconut husk totem here. I believe I made this one about 5 foot. So let's get this in the pot, and actually wait, hold on, before I put plants in here, I gotta get a little bit of soil in here. Here, let me get a little bit more in here. It's a good thing we're doing this now because these are getting super, oh yeah, super tight in the pot. Oh my goodness, okay. We've got another super healthy, beautiful root system on there. And I am so glad that I ended up getting these. They were at Lowe's. They had a bunch of cold damage. They were really little when I first got them. All their leaves were all scarred up from the cold, and they just had like these, you know, frostbitten marks on them all over, and it just seemed like nobody wanted them. They were sitting outside in the freezing cold, and I was like, if no one else is getting these, I'll go and take them home and rehab them. And look how pretty they bounce back. That's why I love micans, is they just bounce back. They're so forgiving, and they're just absolutely gorgeous. Okay, hold on, let's get that one positioned on that side. Let's go and put this one in the front. There's only 3 pots in here, and it's already looking quite full, but I'm gonna try to squeeze on one more pot. Actually, here, I'm gonna have to scoot this one off to one side so we can try to fit this one in here too. Okay, wait, hold on. First, I gotta figure out, yeah, okay, that's gonna work. Just gotta get these guys in position with their little vines. There are so many vines in here, oh my gosh. This plant is gonna be crazy. Oops, oops, oops. I'm gonna be making a mess with soil here, but it's okay. I'll sweep afterwards. My coconut pole is pretty tall, so I'm just gonna add a little more soil kind of built up around it just to make sure I can lock that into place. I'm just tamping down right around the pole. I'll make sure that that's nice and sturdy in there for the plant. Now it's time to start gathering up all these vines and start getting them attached to the pole. So I'll go grab my garden Velcro. So I'll just start with a few pieces for now. So first, when I'm going around the pole, I start with just grabbing the longer vines first. And sometimes you have some of those vines that are sort of in between. They're like still kind of short, but they kind of are starting to grow. And I just sort of face those the direction I want them to grow. And even if they're not attached to the pole, at least I kind of have them facing the way I want the leaves to start growing. All right, let's get the first piece of tape or garden Velcro slipped through here. Okay, second piece of garden Velcro, I'm just catching the tallest vines. So I'll have that about 5 inches higher than the last piece. Also right now the tips of the vines are sort of like facing all different directions, and they're sort of like leaning straight out, but eventually those will start to turn upwards and they'll all start growing straight up. So it'll look a little wild at first. Okay, I'm just watering in the micans now because this is going to be a plant that I water in place. It's not one that I, you know, take to the kitchen sink or anything. This gets watered in place, and any care that it needs or pest maintenance gets done here in the plant room. Now right now the saucer is pretty much maxed out, just about there. So in that case, just in case that starts to overflow, I do have my handy little turkey baster here, so I can come down here and suck some of that water out. All right, so I will check back in with you guys in maybe a couple of weeks, and we'll see if the leaves have turned around yet. All right guys, time for an update on the micans. They are looking very lush. This is now 3 months later since I potted up this one on the totem. This was the very first one, and so I had put 2 plants in here, and it has gotten so lush and so much fuller, and it has reached the top of the totem now, and I just can't believe how much it's filled out. It's always putting out new vines too from further down, so let me come in close here so you can see. I'm just amazed at how it's continuously putting out new growth, new vines, and it's looking so lush, and I love the color. That was something I wanted to really kind of play with, is the lighting, to get the color of the leaves right. I wanted them to stay pretty dark, but I still wanted to get leaves that were decent size. So it's always that kind of balance, trying to find the right lighting for your plants. There's so many aerial roots in here too, and the aerial roots get so long and wild. Look at these. Oh my gosh, like all these little strings you see here, those are the aerial roots coming down. So when new vines pop out down below here, I normally will kind of try to guide them towards the totem so they can start facing the leaves the right direction. And I just got to make sure that I keep it watered, because once there's so much growth on a plant, it really sucks up the water. So I really have to start increasing my water. I was watering it once a week, and now I water about once every 5 days. And also today is watering day, so I actually just mixed up a container. Normally I will mix up my water for the plants in 1 gallon containers. So I've got Super Thrive in there and Liquidirt. And those are part of my regular fertilizing routine for all of my plants. So every other watering, I add Liquidirt and Super Thrive to the water. I also use time release fertilizer for most of my plants, not all of them. There's some that I don't use this on, but for the Micans and other really lush plants, I use NutriCoat. This is a 180-day time release fertilizer. It also contains macronutrients and other nutrients and minerals for the plants. So just to give you an idea of how much I use, because it only takes a tiny bit, a little goes a long way with this. So for a 4-inch pot, I use half a teaspoon, and for a 6-inch pot, I use 1 teaspoon. And for an 8-inch pot, I use 2 teaspoons. And on most fertilizers, there'll be a light feeding rate and a heavy feeding rate. I always go with the lightest feeding rate possible, so I use the least amount of fertilizer, but I fertilize consistently to make sure they're well fed, but not over fertilized. So when I'm watering, I try to go all the way around the pot, nice and slow, so that water doesn't pour through too quickly, since I'm watering this in place instead of like going to the sink where the water can free flow through the pot. When I have plants in place like this, I try to just water slowly so it can seep in slowly and really saturate the soil, instead of just sort of racing through to the bottom with the gravity. So I normally will give it 1 full watering can, which this is actually a pretty small watering can. I don't know, is it like a 1/4 gallon maybe? Something like that. But yeah, not too much, because otherwise it'll overflow over the bottom. So, but I do have my little turkey baster over here that I can use to suck that up. Also, they like to be fertilized. They really seem to enjoy the Liquidirt, Super Thrive, that combination when I water. And I usually will do that every other watering. I love that dark green velvet. And the leaves are getting bigger as we go up higher here, as it's been climbing. And up towards the top, the leaves get more bronze because they're closer to the grow light. So eventually I might reposition it. I don't know, we'll see. Maybe I'll just, I don't know, do some propagations or something, but it is already just above the top of the pole now. So that's the first pot that I did with the Micans, with the totem. And then when I potted it up into that wash basin pot, I'll show you that one now. That one is down here on the shelf. All right, there's the wash basin pot there. It takes up the entire shelf, and it has a ton of new growth everywhere, like all these growth points. It's just doing amazing. It is not growing as fast, like the vine, it's not vining out as long, as quickly as when it's climbing. Like this one, I can't believe how fast that one shot up that entire length of the pole. That was pretty amazing to watch. It's just so much fun to watch these plants grow. That's part of the enjoyment that we get from having our plants, right? It's so interesting to just see their progress. So with the vines, I kind of like, if one starts hanging down, I sort of just grab it and kind of hook it back up in here so it's not getting smaller leaves. I'm trying to keep it sort of like at least the same size leaves. Oh, and this one here, I've showed you guys that one in my houseplant tour. So this is another Micans that I've been rehabbing. I potted that one off camera. That one I just potted up not too long ago. And I'm just rehabbing it because I had it in too bright of light. It was too close to one of my grow lights. So I just potted it in with another Micans plant into this pot up here. So they're sharing a pot. So that's why like one side's really short. And that was just one plant that I had. And then the old plant, that was my first Micans. That one is pretty long, but I've had it trailing so you can see how little the leaves get. I mean, you know how when you grow Mican, look at all those roots. Look how long those are. So it looks like you're growing like a bunch of leafless vines, but really they're just roots. But yeah, the leaves get more sparse as it gets longer and smaller. You get really tiny leaves when it trails, you know, when it's left to trail really long like that. So this one, that's why I'm kind of just grabbing, anytime I see a vine sort of hanging down here, I sort of just grab it and kind of try to hook it up in here so it sort of makes it feel like it's kind of climbing or hanging on. So that way it's not just gonna get like that. I'm not sure if I'm gonna leave this like this. I might use this to propagate on. All right, let me take you guys to the other side of my plant room and we'll check out the third pot of micans that we potted up in this video. So this one has only had 2 months of growth so far. It's about halfway up the totem at this point, so it still has a ways to go. It's a 5-foot totem. But it's growing pretty good and it's extremely thick. It's putting out all new vines down here. And in fact, it has a bunch of new ones that just sprouted out. I'm gonna have to grab those and start moving them towards the totem so they can start attaching, or I can attach them with some Velcro. But yeah, that one is turning into another gorgeous one. Oh my gosh, we're gonna have so much micans after this, this project. Oh yeah, it's got all kinds of new growth. I'm gonna have to start getting these. Oh, where's that one? Okay, that one, oh my gosh. Yeah, I got all kinds of new growth to start getting on the totem. Normally I'll grab the new growth points once they get a little bit long enough to be able to reach. Then I will start attaching them so they can get in there and start climbing. So for the soil, you guys saw what soil I used for these, but really you don't have to use like any of the ingredients that I used. You could use just a good potting soil mixed with perlite, and that would work perfectly fine for the micans. And just do like a, you know, like about a 50-50 blend is probably like what I would do for them, because I don't want them to get waterlogged. They don't want to be in waterlogged soil. They like well draining soil. But you know, they definitely do enjoy the moisture. But yeah, the bigger your plants get, the more water they're gonna require to stay healthy and happy and lush and full, and to push out a lot of new growth. Like I notice when I keep them really well watered, they push out growth like crazy. And the type of lighting they're in, I have my grow light over there, the Spider Farmer 2000. Normally that's on, and so that's the main light that this plant gets. But I just turned it off for filming right now so it won't be too bright back there. So it's pretty far away from the grow light, but these plants don't require bright light. Like bright indirect light, if it's too bright, they'll get too bronzy and they can even sunburn and start getting pink leaves. But not a cute pink. It's more like a, I don't know, kind of a sickly pink. So probably not something you want. You don't want that intensive sun stressing on your micans. But for my plants, I like to keep them in medium light. So not low light, but not real bright, intense light. I try to keep them where the leaves are gonna stay real dark green, but I don't want them to only have like tiny leaves. Like I want to make sure that they're able to photosynthesize enough to get enough energy, but I don't want to put them in too bright of light. So I kind of just aim for a happy medium with them, just enough to where they're going to look lush. That's pretty much my goal with the micans. Nice, lush, full pots of micans. So for temperature and humidity, I'll just show you on my humidifier over here. It's 55% humidity right now, and it's 82 degrees Fahrenheit. And I'll put it in Celsius too, what that is. But that's pretty much, I'd say that's pretty typical actually of what my plant room stays, at least during spring and summer. Sometimes it does get hotter in this room, like 85, but generally that's a good idea of kind of what I normally have it in here. And sometimes the humidity will shoot up to like 70%, but most often it's in the 50s in this room. Oh, and I should mention I'm filming in the afternoon too, so the room is the hottest that it normally will be. It normally starts out in the 70s. So most of the vines do pretty good sticking right to the totem, growing straight up it, but occasionally you'll get a random stray one that will just kind of be hanging out like that. And so I'll just kind of adjust it, you know, just sort of move it around into position and put another piece of Velcro and kind of just like get that going in the right direction, so that, and then that vine will, the vine tip will start growing straight up there. And then when it comes to pest maintenance, I haven't actually had a lot of trouble with micans. They've been pretty pest resistant, even though I have had spider mites in my plant room before, and I probably still do. What am I saying? I probably have some, they're probably somewhere in here right now listening to us. Usually what I've noticed with the micans is the spider mites are attracted to the younger leaves that are closest to the brightest light, if that makes sense. So the part of the plant that is probably getting the most sun stress or light stress, that seems to really attract the spider mites. Like they really are drawn to that area. So any part of the plant that is getting bright light, keep an eye out for any spider mite bites on that. And whenever I do see any bites, I will grab my Captain Jack spray, the dead bug brew spray, and I'll just spray down the plant. I don't take it anywhere, I just spray it right in place. I'll throw down a couple rags on the floor to catch the drips and take care of it that way. Super quick and easy pest maintenance. So spider mites are the only pests that I've ever had on the micans, and like I said, it's been very little and they don't seem to hang out on them too much. Like they will go find a different plant. But that's probably because the micans is in good condition. If I was to underwater them and they got stressed out, I'm sure the spider mites would probably descend on them. And I'm curious if you guys are growing micans too, how do you like to grow yours? Do you let them climb or do you let them trail? Do you have a preference either way? And if you have any tips or secrets or experiences you want to share with your micans, please feel free to leave them in the comments below. All right guys, I hope you enjoyed this little experiment with the micans of letting them trail or climb and seeing the results 3 months later. All right guys, thank you so much for hanging out with me. New videos coming every week. I'm back on schedule and we've got lots of content to get caught up on. So I will see you in the next one coming up right after this. Love you guys. Bye. Look who's in the plant room. I had to take a quick break from filming because my squirrel came and I had to give it some cashews, and then she came in here to see what was going on, huh? Oh, I know, you see them in my hand, huh? But you didn't want those. I thought you rejected those. Yeah, see, that's what I thought. She doesn't like them if they're too dry. You can see they're kind of shriveled in there, so I gotta go get some more.